Hey guys, this is David Johnston. This is day 30 of DeFi, crypto, and PegNet talks that I've been giving. And today I'm extremely excited to talk about PegNet 2.0. So this is really the culmination of months of work that have gone into different proposals to improve the oracles on PegNet, to really increase the liquidity and uncap the limit on converting P assets into PEG. There's updates around filtering for bad data that comes from API errors, for adding staking that gives a reward to people holding P assets and people staking PEG. Will allow for the first time stakers to participate in reporting oracles. So there's just a ton of stuff to unpack in PegNet 2.0. This is being coded up right now, and I'm going to include a link to my article on all of this, and I'm just going to go ahead and pull it up right here in front of me so you guys can kind of walk with me through step by step what's going on with PegNet 2.0. This is the first major release that we've had in a few months of the PegNet software, and we've just learned a ton about securing oracles, about increasing liquidity in the system. And the goal of this update is really just to wrap together all those upgrades into one release. So let's go through it. And the way that I wanted to structure this is to step back and think about what are the core values that we really want to strive towards as a community. And a lot of these have emerged very organically since August of last year when the mining for PegNet kicked off. And they've evolved a little bit over time as we sort of understood more and more of what PegNet was capable of. And so I've taken the approach in my article of talking first about what those values are, and then we can sort of unpack how the feature increases and upgrades in PegNet 2.0 feed into those values or make those values more real. So let's jump right into the list. If you've got the article open, you'll see that the big driving thing first right off the bat is universal access for everyone. I really believe, and what got me so excited about PegNet is it's a permissionless system. Doesn't matter your economic means, your location, your technical ability, everybody should be able to access pegged assets. And the primary way that that's made possible is through decentralization. So as you guys know, PegNet has no central reserve, no shared collateral, no central operators, didn't hold an ICO, there's no pre-mine, and it has no foundation. So there are no middlemen to exclude people from this system. It's a totally open system. So that's first and foremost. The second is a value around stability, right? The benefit of stable coins and the freedom to go in between fiats and crypto and commodities as you feel fit is critical. And in PegNet, that's achieved by having robust oracles and by the arbitrageurs balancing the prices between the PegNet and the external exchanges. The third item is liquidity. So this is a huge benefit to using PegNet is you don't have to worry about slippage. You don't have to worry about the order book depth. You can just convert value inside your PegNet wallet as much as you want. If you have $1 million of PBTC and want to turn it into $1 million of PETH, you push a button, it does the conversion, and the next block you've got your conversion. There's no counterparties involved. So that sort of unbounded liquidity is really unique to PegNet. There aren't really any other systems that exist today that have those type of elements built in. So I think that's a big one. Fourth is similar, is frictionless conversions. How can you quickly convert between P assets? How can you do it without a counterparty? How you can do it for a tenth of a penny in PegNet is extremely cheap. So we've crossed $2 billion in conversions on PegNet. So evidently, people really like the frictionless conversions in the system. And so the goal is to sort of preserve that. And really, the only way we have to tamper that is if we need to think about liquidity or we need to think about stability of the systems. And so the goal is to sort of balance these different ideals and push them forward as much as we can. Number 5, user-run networks. So every behavior in PegNet can be done by anybody, right? It's CPU mining that anybody can participate in. Anybody can get involved in the arbitrage. And the new staking features will sort of be open to everybody that has P assets or want to stake Peg. So there's no privileged entities. There's no special servers or parties that have any advantage in the system over other users. Number 6 is self-sovereign. So no user in PegNet is depending on some other user. Sending, receiving, conversions, arbitrage, these are all independent actions that people can take, and really protects users. As we saw in the case of the 51% attack, because there's no shared pool of collateral to drain, it's impossible for an attacker to steal somebody else's tokens in the system, which is really critical. Number 7, consensus-based oracles. So as you guys know, rather than reserves or collateral, PegNet is based on consensus of oracle prices. And with this upgrade, it'll be both miners and stakers that are aligned around their holding of Peg, their mining and their staking activities to report those prices. So this will sort of introduce even more parties that have an interest in seeing those prices be honest, be accurate, and be timely. So, and as part of this, right, we want to expand the number of fiats and cryptos and commodities that are listed in PegNet. I believe right now there are 42 P assets in Peg, and it'll be moving to probably about 50 P assets in Peg in the update, adding some new cryptos that are now large enough to be included in the system, and also adding some fiat currencies. Number 8 is continuous improvement. So there's a temptation in software to kind of polish the thing perfectly before you release it. But I think what's much more effective is to move quickly and to release what you've got, find where it needs to be improved, and continue to iterate. So that sort of continuous improvement is how you really get fundamentally groundbreaking things, right? There are a lot of aspects of PegNet that people didn't know if they'd work. Nobody had done Oracle-based stablecoins before. What is the conversions? How are those going to work? And so by just jumping in and trying it out, we've learned an enormous amount the last 9-10 months since the mining went live, right? And so we can take everything you learn and apply it to the next version. So I think that's critical, and it's all open source, so people sort of can be involved in that process. Number 9 goes along with that. Regular hard forks allow you to really expand what the system can do, right? By making breaking changes and planning on them on a regular basis, a couple of times a year at least, that gives you the room to think about expanding the software's capability. If all you'd ever do is soft forks, you really have to sort of incrementally just reduce, not increase what the system can do. So, and then finally, of course, 10, open source. PegNet is built on open source, and the developers practice sort of open development. Everybody can see the pips, everybody can see the PegNet improvement proposals and how they're being coded up, and be involved in design, architecture, features, and upgrades, sort of open for everybody to participate in. So those are the 10 big values that sort of been expressed by the community. Again, they are universal access, stability, liquidity, frictionless conversions, a user-run network, self-sovereign, consensus-based oracles, continuous improvement, regular hard forks, and finally, open development. So let's pause and sort of unpack how that's going to affect the features that are coming in PegNet 2.0. So firstly, remember that in PegNet 1.0, there's a 5,000 Peg reward to miners for submitting oracles. There's user conversions based on those oracle prices. There's no limit on P asset to P asset conversions. There's no limit to taking PEG and converting into P assets, but there is a limit when going from P assets to PEG, and that's 5,000 PEG per block. And this has definitely been an issue with building up liquidity outside of the PegNet, because to avoid Oracle attacks, you had to limit how much people could convert into PEG. It limits front running. It also limits sort of minor attacks or other things that were possible. And so lastly, people could enter both through PEG and through FCT as gateway tokens in PegNet 1.0. So let's talk about what's going to change. So for the features of PegNet 2.0, there's still the 5,000 PEG reward for the current block miners. PIP 14 would introduce a new 5,000 PEG reward for past miners so that we can compare the prices submitted by past miners and current miners. This won't immediately be included in PegNet 2.0, but probably 2.1. But the set aside for that PEG reward will be put into the system by increasing the miner reward from 5,000 to 10,000 per block. Now, as far as PEG for stakers goes, the proposal is 5,000 PEG per block for P asset holders. This is part of the arbitrage reward that's in PIP 12, and then there's 5,000 PEG per block for PEG stakers that are adding Oracle prices, and this is part of PIP 13. So this introduces also an equal amount of reward, 10,000 PEG per block for stakers, both those holding P assets and those holding PEG, depending on PIP 12 or PIP 13. And so in total, you'll be going from 10,000 PEG per block to 20,000 PEG per block. And I think this is worth pausing at, because economics in crypto systems should change very slowly. But there's definitely consensus from the miners, the users, the people in the system, one, that staking should be added to broaden the number of people that can participate in the supply creation in PegNet, but also as a way of broadening the oracles and making them stronger. And when you want people to do something new, there has to be a reward. And so I don't take it lightly, and there's still room for debate on this subject, but it seems like most people are disposed to increasing these PEG rewards for arbitrage, for staking oracles, for past miners, and continuing the reward for current miners as a way of strengthening the system. So the next item on PegNet 2.0 is, of course, P asset conversions are still unlimited, P asset to P asset. PEG to P asset conversions are unlimited, but the improvement is now you'll have P asset to PEG conversions will be unlimited as part of PIP 10. So PIP 10 really focuses on protecting PegNet from front running. So in the case of PEG or FCT, the number of blocks that the price is averaged over, if you will, isn't just one, but it can be many blocks. So if there's a fast market move in either price and somebody's trying to do front running, they wouldn't get the advantage of converting into that price. So it really protects the network where we have lower value assets that are more at risk of front running. Number 8, detect API errors and pause conversions of affected P assets via PIP 15. So some people call this a spike detector or a circuit breaker, but it's really just looking for when you have bad data. APIs aren't perfect, and exchanges and their APIs can go haywire and send the wrong data to miners. So the miner can be honest, everything in the system can be going well, and you see some crazy spike of 1,000% in some price. This is just an error in the API. And what PIP 15 does is say, okay, when we detect these errors, there's a greater than 100% increase in the price, let's say, it's going to pause conversions on that P asset for that block. So it's fine-tuned enough that it's not going to affect everything in the network, but if there's an API that is affected, it would pause conversions so that people aren't affected negatively by that erroneous error. right? Some software like PegNet Market Cap already does this, but not all the miners use PegNet Market Cap, and PegNet Market Cap doesn't provide data for all of the assets on PegNet. So you really need something in the software level, in the PegNet software, that prevents these type of errors. Okay, number 9, Peg as the primary gateway into and out of P assets. This has been discussed for a very long time. Effectively, you needed some way to bootstrap the network. And before Peg even had a price, it made perfect sense to use FCT, factoids, as the way to burn factoids and get value into the PegNet. But as Peg has grown and gotten listed on more exchanges, it doesn't necessarily make sense. Now, I would put the caveat on there that I would actually like to see more gateway tokens. But number 10 is we have to find a way to align gateway tokens with rewards that go to PegNet miners and Peg stakers. And so as part of PegNet 2.0, FCT will be removed, but it could be added back in if we can find a way to work with the Factom community and get some reward that goes to the PegNet miners and stakers and open up some amount of conversions, maybe not unlimited, but some amount of conversions from factoids into Peg factoids. And this is a type of partnership that could be seen with other protocols. You know, if Algorand or Hedera or other groups want to, lock up tokens or burn tokens and get some access to P assets, then I think that would be great. We just need to figure out the way to align the incentives so that the value flowing into the system is balanced by value flowing out of the system, and the players like the miners and stakers who are securing the system. I think that's really the key. So again, probably a 2.1 type of feature, a feature for PegNet, but something to think about and figure out. So anyway, that's sort of the big summary. Here are the values that the PegNet community cares about. Here are the features that flows into for this upgrade. And to highlight them, universal access and user-run network is really positively impacted by adding new groups of people, P asset holders and Peg stakers, that are getting part of the Peg reward. I think that's a great move towards everybody being able to access PegNet and benefit from it. When it comes to frictionless conversions, obviously opening up P asset to Peg conversions is going to vastly increase the liquidity that people have to move in and out of the system, which I think is great. Consensus-based oracles, when it comes to securing the oracles more, there's PIP 13, PIP 14, PIP 15, PIP 10. All of these are efforts to make those oracles stronger and stronger over time. And finally, self-sovereign. All these improvements have been really thought through in depth in a way that doesn't create special parties or create central entities. Those are the easy solutions, right? The easy solution is to, say, well, go ahead and centralize that part. And the PegNet community has been great at sort of resisting those temptations and staying true to the idea of decentralization and coming up with better solutions that don't require central parties. So the last thing I'll say is, here's my call to action. Get involved. Jump into the PegNet Discord community. That's where a lot of this chat is taking place. I also did a video recently on the community update talking about PegNet 2.0, so you can check that out for more details. But I'm really excited about this. This is the fulfillment of so much work by the community the last few months. We've seen, the debut of ptrader.co and now mobile wallets for the ecosystem. There are desktop wallets in the works. So more and more people are getting access to PegNet. Hundreds, potentially thousands of people have been flowing into the ecosystem, and we've crossed $2 billion in conversions. Clearly, we've hit a chord with traders and people that want to convert their value into different assets. So the goal is to really sort of put that third leg on the stool, to add to what we've established with oracles and with conversions and add liquidity. And I think all of these ways that we secure the oracles and all these ways that the software sort of gets more people to participate will really enable that going forward. So anyway, extremely excited about this. Glad to have you guys on board for this journey. Now, a bit longer than a normal talk, but I think this subject is just so important, and there'll be a lot of discussion about it. And this is very much a draft. If you've got opinions on these subjects, jump in the Discord and make your voice heard. So anyway, that's all for today. But wash your hands, wear a mask, be awesome to one another, and crypto on. Take care, my friends. Bye.